first part. So, hi there. Welcome back to New to Hill Country. We're here today with Ellie. And Ellie, sorry, give me your name. Ellie Truan.
Truan,
I'm sorry. Ellie Truan. We didn't go over that beforehand, so thus things are a little off. Sorry. I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, SPG Texas, which is where we're recording at right now, and Element Tea. And Element Tea is an electrolyte mix that provides amazing hydration benefits. You kind of have to try it to understand it. As far as our gym, if you're just tuning in for the first time, we specialize in martial arts, self-defense. We've got programs for adults, kids, and we also have a wonderful yoga and meditation program. So if you're interested in that, just you should be able to find links however you found our podcast here. So anyways, we're here today with Ellie, and Ellie's coming from the Crisis Center.
Crisis Center, Comal County. Yep.
Yeah, great. So as always, though, Ellie, just tell us about your relationship with Hill Country. Just like how did you get here to where we are today?
Okay. So I was born in Corpus, but whenever I was 5, my mom moved here to New Braunfels, and so I was basically raised here. Middle of high school, I moved back to Corpus. To finish up there and live with my dad for a bit, and then I came back and went to school in San Marcos.
Okay.
And then now I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Spent a lot of time here.
What did you study in school?
So I started out with accounting.
Okay.
Which was it was just because I was good at it and that's what my family wanted. But I actually only got my basics out of the way, and that's something that I talk about with how I got into what I do. Just because what I experienced in college led me to where I'm at.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So I studied accounting. Originally, I wanted to go to SCAD in Georgia, Savannah College of Art and Design.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to study architecture.
I understand.
Accounting, architecture.
I understand.
different sides of the spectrum there. But
people have so many elements to who they are, right? So,
yeah.
It's not, I mean, even I think with a lot of people, when you look at a lot of famous people or something, that they seem so specialized in one thing. I think generally, if you got to know those people, you'd find that they have these what would appear to be discordant sort of talents or interests in other things. I think that's just super common to people. Like the art versus math. It's not really, the versus is kind of, it's our way of simplifying life, right? So, but yeah, cool. Tell us what you like about the area.
Okay. I love that we have 2 rivers here. That's been fantastic, having that, growing that, and then Schlitterbahn here. But I would say, whenever you really get out into the country, it's just beautiful. I like to be out in nature a lot, and so it's really beautiful. And then you've got the stereotype of the horses and all of that, and so certain areas it is really cool to see people just riding their horses on the side of the road to get to places. But I would say definitely the rivers. There's a lot to do outside here. And then the community. I mean, even though we're growing, it still feels like a small town. And so, I enjoy that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because I keep hearing people saying over the last 10 years things have changed so much. It's grown so much. So how do you feel about that? Do you like this change that's happening, or kind of you miss something that you had before?
I do. I like it. I think it's great, especially if we're bringing in variety. But it's difficult, with the traffic or more of the trees and all of that being torn down, and just the beauty of what we had here. That's a little bit sad, but I'm okay with it. Everything's growing. It's good. But I would say, New Braunfels, where green is, and the loop inside of the loop, I would say that feels like it hasn't changed much. It's the same, you got a lot of the same people still living there, and so certain grocery stores that you go to, you know you're gonna see certain people there, and so you still have that small town feel.
Cool.
Yeah, I love this. I love that about New Braunfels, that it's got a lot going on, you know, the dynamic kind of activities and a lot of people, young people, but at the same time, I do feel the small town vibe, and I love that.
Yeah, it's a good mixture.
I never really feel like I never feel like that big city. And that's for us was like a big thing in coming here.
Because we're coming from such a big city, so like so many people there. I love this small town vibe.
Absolutely.
You mentioned you like getting outside of town. Are there any places in particular that you'd like to promote? Like,
I love to go camping in the Davis Mountains.
Okay.
It's beautiful there. If you want to take a further drive, you can go.
How far is to Davis Mountains? Like,
it's like
assume that we know nothing about the area because we're not actually that informed.
The Davis Mountains, I believe it's 6 hours.
Okay.
There's Pedernales Falls.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that's like 2.
Okay.
A little bit closer.
Mm-hmm.
There's Lakey where they have Garner State Park.
Okay.
And that's about an hour and a half. And then if you want to go like way north, you have Guadalupe Mountain State Park.
Okay.
And that's like an 8-hour drive.
Okay.
So yeah. I always say if you're gonna go to West Texas though, always make sure that whenever you see a gas station, stop and fill up, because there are like no gas stations out there.
That makes sense. It's just probably spaces out in small communities and stuff like that.
It was stranded out there, and it was terrifying.
We once upon a time got just straight in southern Illinois.
Yeah.
We were just heading to probably St. Louis, I would guess. And it was just like, oh, we need gas. And it was like, we popped through like 3 or 4 small towns, no gas station. It was like, how's there no gas station? I guess there's a town here, there's gotta be a gas station. It was like the towns were, and I'm not trying to get down on southern Illinois, but the towns were like eerily, almost like, there was like almost no life in them.
Yeah,
it was
just
weird. It was
one place we drove by was a little strange. Yeah, it was just like I couldn't see anybody, and no car was, driving, and it was almost like ghost town.
We're like, let's get out of here.
Yeah,
This is like the start of a bad movie
right
here.
now.
Like, let's just get out of here right now. Like, this is where the protagonist should just turn around and drive out of town. I think we're gonna drive out of town. Let's go. Like, and I'm sure there was nothing, but like it just felt weird. It was like, so we went to a couple kind of businesses and we're knocking and like, no,
and it was closed.
and it was like. It's like 2 p.m. Like, why is this not open? Sort of. It wasn't.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was weird, but anyways.
Yeah, that's kind of what West Texas is like.
Is it?
A little bit. I saw my first tumbleweed.
Oh wow!
And I got so excited over tumbleweed, but it's like that's a thing that you see in Texas, and I've never seen one until I went there.
I actually do not know what that is.
So tumbleweed is like in like movies where they're like it'll be like they're out in the desert and be like that this
ball of
like kind of ball, almost like hay, like will blow across the scene or something. It's kind of more like it's like a cinematic element to some degree. I would be excited to see that too. I've never seen it, so like something it just kind of like blowing across the screen. It doesn't. Probably haven't watched as many cowboy movies and stuff, so yeah, that's probably why.
But I would say those are my favorite places. Wimberley is great too.
Yeah.
Direction wise, I don't know. Wimberley is maybe like a 30-minute drive, but that's another really cool small town kind of vibe that you have there.
Sure. One of our gym members actually is from. He lives up in there. He's got a gym up there too.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. I mean, there's Austin and there's San Marcos and there's San Antonio. I'm more of a fan of the smaller stuff. I get overwhelmed whenever there's too much going on, and so. But Austin is really cool. I know it has a lot to offer. I just don't go there that much. And same with San Marcos, and then San Antonio. I'm a little more comfortable with. But yeah, they have a variety of museums that are fantastic. They have the Pearl Brewery over there, and it's really beautiful. So, yeah.
Yeah, we run the gym all the time. We don't get out.
We hear so many good things.
Like we got lists upon lists and stuff. Like but we don't get out that much.
One day.
Usually when we have the time to get out, it's when everything is shut down because of a lockdown or something like that. It's like, well, we've got time. It's like can't go anywhere. But, dang. So yeah. But so tell us about the Crisis Center, like in your work there. How did you get involved with that, and just what does it mean to you? Like,
Okay. So first, the Crisis Center, we are a center for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and we have counseling for adults and youth. We have shelter, we have case management, we have legal advocates, and then we have me, prevention.
Okay.
And so we'll talk about prevention first and kind of how I got into that. But yeah, like I said, in college I did not finish. I got my basics out of the way. I was in a very abusive relationship at the time, and so I got really depressed. I didn't want to go to classes anymore, and I was paying for it, and so it was kind of like, you know, why am I going to keep paying and going if I can't even manage to get out of bed to go? And so then after that, I decided I want to turn everything that I went through, because there was a lot that I went through in my teen years as well. I wanted to turn all of the trauma into something that could help other people.
Awesome.
And so for about 8 years after my 2 years in college, I worked in childcare because I love kids. And I also worked in the special needs community a lot because I have a passion for that. And then it just kind of turned out where I needed another job, and I was looking on Facebook, and my director had posted a position about needing a prevention specialist. And she said on there that they needed someone with a master's, and I was like, oh, I don't have a master's, and so maybe I shouldn't even try. But I emailed her and I told her, please just give me a chance, I promise I can do it. And so yeah, that's how I ended up there. Originally I was running the children's program that we have in the shelter, and then I had never done anything like prevention before. I don't really like to talk in front of people. I'm more like sit in the back of the room, no one look at me type of deal. But with prevention, you have to speak in front of groups. And so she tested me. My first test was I had to go teach 1,300 middle schoolers about boundaries.
Wow,
And,
that's a steep,
it was a
steep
lot.
challenge.
It was a lot.
Athletic.
And so, yeah, I did that. And whenever I went, I had no idea what I was talking about as far as boundaries went. You know, there was still so much that I needed to learn myself. But I went in there and I just talked about whatever I thought about boundaries, you know, and how you could benefit from them. And for the full 30 minutes, they were all silent and listening, and that made me really happy. And so I told her what happened, and she was like, okay. And so, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, there's like 5 life lessons in there for anybody listening to that.
Right.
I'm just gonna kind of recap a couple that really just stood out to me. One, apply for the job anyway.
Yes.
Right.
If it's the job that you want, just apply for it anyway. Just go in, talk, make your case. Like, I can just tell that you showed her your passion for it, and it's like, hey, maybe because qualifications are always just like they're always just a rough approximation of what someone wants at the end of the day. It's never like it's rarely an absolute. It can be like, but I think the worst thing you're going to encounter is no. Right. So it's like not that much of a loss as long as you get over that. But then I really like I taught rhetoric for like the last 10 years. I was a professor and stuff, and when I was teaching public speaking most of the time, and it's like, you know, I would just always emphasize, just look, I can tell you how to do so many things, but you just got to kind of just get in there and do it. And it almost makes you feel weird as a teacher of that after a while, because you're like, am I that helpful, or do I just provide opportunities for you to practice this and you get better just because the opportunity, once you realize that like speaking in front of someone can't result in sudden death, you know, like then it's like, oh, okay, like, and that most people are actually pretty compliant. Those kind of like they'll just listen through it, you know, and like that's awesome though, starting with 1,300 middle school kids. That's lions and tigers and bears. Like
middle school is definitely the scariest age range for me. Even still, before going into a school and it's middle school, I'm like, oh man, because I don't want to know what they think of me. It's terrifying. But yeah, that's
I think most people don't like. What I always tell people on that, and maybe this will help you a little bit, is just I just always try to convince people that people aren't even thinking about you. the like you are just hoping to hold people's attention when you get in front of them. Not, you shouldn't assume that, like, I think we assume that like people are like, this camera is recording, you know, it's like catches everything, but it's like, and you assume everyone's eyes function like cameras, and it's like, whereas instead they're like, oh, later I want to watch this show, and oh man, I'm hoping, boy, I'd really like a corn dog right now, or something. You know, like they're just, their brains going in all these different directions, and they're like, what'd that lady say about that? Oh, that's kind of interesting. And it's like, oh, but yeah, Tommy said, you know, like, and they're just, like, you're lucky if you hold enough attention to make them form a judgment of you, you know, like that's how I think of it. Just, I taught for years, and it's like, you're constantly getting the feedback of, you said it, but they didn't hear it. So like, you're just like, nobody's listening. Like, you know, like I just try to be as energetic as possible. But anyways,
Exactly. Yeah.
But awesome stuff. Like, cool. Like, tell me more about what is a prevention specialist, and I want to know more about it, and what, you know, what are the things we can even just do right now and take away. Like, I try to get everything I can. So yeah, please.
So prevention specialist, especially for our center, what we do is, our shelter, they serve people who are already in crisis, so we're reacting. But what I do is try to teach these things like body safety, healthy connections, healthy communication, all of that before something happens. And so that's where I try to encourage parents, you know, inform yourself on how to teach your kids about these things, how to have conversations with them. They need to know the proper name for their body parts and not giving them nicknames. All of that, starting at even the age of 3, you know, because it's easier to get a 3-year-old to listen to you and be comfortable with those conversations than it is whenever they're like 14.
That makes sense.
And at that time, you know, whenever they've gotten into middle school, something could have already happened. And so I know that it is scary for parents to think about. Having a daughter myself, it's not something that you want to think about. If, you know, sexual assault or anything like that may happen to them, but with that fear, the only way that we can protect them is by teaching them, because we can't be with them all the time. And so giving them the knowledge and the tools on what's healthy and what's not healthy, you know? And so that's what prevention is. It's kind of getting to our youth before anything happens to them. And so, yeah.
Do you feel like prevention, and this is maybe me getting in on my own topic, but like, do you feel like prevention has become more important with like the internet, and like, it's like, I just feel like the internet can really expose a kid to something so much earlier than I think I probably would have ever been. I'm an old man, and like, you know, would I have ever been exposed to that? What were the odds of that? Were pretty low, whereas like, whether it's words, imagery, you know, just all kinds of ideas and stuff, I feel get to kids like earlier. Is that jive with what you do?
Absolutely. We have a whole nother thing on internet and gaming safety, because it's true. You know, they're coming across so many things at such a young age. That's one thing I've kind of come into with parents and resistance of like, I don't want you to talk to my child about this stuff, but more than likely they've already heard about it, you know, from their friends, or there was a case where at a school, first graders got past the firewall. They were supposed to be doing math, and they were on YouTube watching stuff that they shouldn't be. And so, you know, kids, they know a lot more than we think, and so it's better for them to get this information from us rather than from somebody else or from somewhere else. But definitely with, you know, YouTube and social media platforms, all of that, it's they need a lot of that.
Do you want an adult that cares about kids to give them this information, or do you want someone who may not care at all to be the delivery method there, right? Like, I think that's
someone even who's giving them improper information in order, like the grooming process, you know, where you have people who pretend to be 12 and they're talking to a 12-year-old, and if your 12-year-old doesn't know, like, don't give out personal information, don't meet up with them. That's how, you know, the scary stuff happens. Kids get kidnapped, and that becomes someone that they trust, someone that they don't even know. and so we talk a lot about that because whenever I do like a circle of trust with them, we talk about 5 adults that they have that are kind of immediate that they can talk to you about really important stuff. And whenever I get kids who say, well, I know this person online, it's a little alarming. And then also, yeah, we still need to have that in-person connection. That's another thing that I'm seeing is a lot of our kids don't know how to have connections with people right in front of them because everything is done behind a screen now too. So that's where the connections part comes in too, is how to build those in-person connections with people, because you need a support system like in person as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you were saying like you go out into schools and stuff. Would you ever consider going out into a gym, specifically a gym named SPG Texas,
Yes.
and doing programs with it? Because we have kids programs stuff like that. Because I would love to be able to offer that, and so we should talk about that later. Kind of like I would love to have something like that for our kids, and
So I was gonna actually ask.
Please, sorry.
So like, in what form does your kind of help or education happen? Like, is it more like a lecture in a big crowd, or do you go to school, but also like, do you provide some kind of education for parents as well? So can you tell us a little bit more about the specifics?
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever I started in the prevention program, there was a previous prevention specialist, and what we were mainly doing was working with focus groups. And so those were kids who had already been identified as at risk. And so it was a small group, and it would last for about 8 weeks. My goal was to take it into the classroom through core classes, so that we were reaching all of the students, because there are so many that they don't show the signs and they need this information. Like, I was one of those who had experienced stuff in high school, nobody knew about it, and so I never got the help that I needed, you know? And so now we, especially through NBISD, we are through the core classes, and so elementary all the way up to 12th grade, we go in and I'll teach 4 lessons, about 4 lessons. I have a curriculum for elementary, and then a curriculum that I created for middle school and high school students. And it's done in the classroom setting, which can present its own challenges, but it's nice to have, you know, a smaller group rather than a whole auditorium.
Sure.
And the challenges of it is you have boys and girls together, and sometimes that can be tricky, but it can also be great, especially when you get into high school. They can give a different perspective. And so, yeah, that's what we do. We have just 4 classes that we teach, main classes. And then from that, if kids want to form a focus group, then we can do that. And we also bring one of our counselors in so that they can have on-site counseling after this, because a lot of this stuff, it triggers things for them that, you know, they didn't know what was happening to them wasn't okay. And so, yeah, we have that. That's mainly how we teach it. And then we do have stuff for parents, caregivers. We have stuff even for teachers and counselors and school administration. We tried to do parenting classes, and we tried in different locations and different times and offered childcare. It's really hard though to get parents to come. One time, it's hard to, you know, create that time. They've got so much going on. And then 2, again, I don't think it's stuff that many people want to know about or really care to hear about. And so that's been one of the biggest challenges with parenting. And so kind of what I've shifted into is creating videos on YouTube from the crisis center, where we're always on our phones, right? And so, hey, let's look at something educational, and they don't have to go anywhere. And so, yeah, I'm offering that right now for parents.
I'm like personally intrigued.
I think we can set something up. I think we have enough people at the gym that would be interested. We could figure something out.
Yeah, my daughter is 7, and now she started asking questions that I find myself not quite ready to answer, and I wanna. I mean, I'm happy that she comes to me, and I want to encourage that.
Right.
But I also feel the responsibility to take that opportunity well, so she feels encouraged to do that more.
Yeah.
Not like,
I show my awkwardness and it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk to my mom about it, you know, so I start feeling that need, and I feel like I need to get educated on that topic too.
It's hard. I always tell parents, it is difficult if you weren't raised talking about this stuff. It's awkward.
It is
really weird.
I mean,
I was raised, you know, born and raised in South Korea, which is completely different culture, you know, in so many ways, and so I don't think I ever had any conversation with my mom and dad, you know, regarding this kind of thing. And still don't. So I don't know what to do. I have to create some of my own, you know, with my kids.
And that's where I offer, like, there are books that you can read to your kids, and different videos that you can watch, websites that you can go to that offer resources to help you have those conversations. But I also tell parents, if you feel uncomfortable or awkward, it's okay to let your child know that. I tell my daughter that, like, this is a little awkward or uncomfortable for me, but we're still gonna talk about it, and I'm glad that you came to me, because what we're teaching them is, just because something is uncomfortable, that doesn't mean we don't talk about it. You know? So it's okay to let them know that.
I think there's just always a tremendous, like, in terms of getting you involved for our group and stuff like that, just, I can already imagine, and I'm kind of speaking to my own gym members right now, just the analogy I would use here is, like, it's awkward for us because it's our first rodeo. Right? Like, what makes someone who's trained in jiu-jitsu difficult to deal with is because it's not their first rodeo. For the other person, typically, if they fall into those positions where jiu-jitsu shines, like, the other person, that's their first rodeo. You know, it's they're trying to figure it out, even if they're athletic or strong. Like, you've dealt with that situation so many times that you're many steps ahead on it. So I'm always trying to, I think finding someone who, like, for you, this ain't gonna be your first rodeo. Like, you've already answered these questions. You know the paths that these conversations can take, and that can be powerful for us, because for so many parents, like, stuff like this comes along and it's your first rodeo. You don't know what to do. You're like, do I grab here? Do I grab here? What am I supposed to say? Kind of, you know, and having someone give you, like, that's essentially what wisdom is, right? The benefit of experience. So that would be awesome if you can figure something out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Love that.
How long is a session typically, like, when you do a class and stuff?
It depends. With elementary or pre-K, it's usually like 30 minutes. Because,
that's not bad.
You know,
attention span. We're dealing with that right
know it all,
We're dealing with that right now. Like, we're kind of creating or kind of changing creating a younger kids class with a little bit of a shortened curriculum because of that attention span issue and stuff. But it's definitely tricky trying to hold in a 5-year-old's attention for a very, very long time. And it's like, we were talking about it, you know, like, it's like, it makes you feel bad after a certain point, because, like, you can just see it, like, that in the beginning they're, like, so on it, and it's like all intention to be all in on it, and it's like 30 seconds in, they're like, ooh, those eyes just start wandering, they're waving around, like, guys, come on, right here, up front, let's look forward. And there's, like, it's the energy's not there in their brain, basically. Like, you're asking them to do something that's just not possible at that point.
It feels like a bad guy.
Yeah, you feel like you're being the bad guy.
Stop talking, focus.
Exactly. I would say with prevention, that's something I've had to learn. Every single group is different, and so you have to read the room and change things. And so I don't do anything with technology, because sometimes that stuff doesn't work, and so you need to know what else to do. And I try to keep like different activities, and then sometimes I have to cut it short if I really feel like, okay, they're not listening, they're not getting anything out of this, and then come back another day, because maybe they're off that day.
Right.
You know? But yes, it is very difficult. One of the hard parts about getting my curriculum trademarked is I don't know how to put it on paper, because it's different all the time.
I see.
You know, and that's one of the more challenging parts, especially with littles. You've got to figure out how to change things up to where they're still interested and have plenty of activities, but also to where it's not out of hand. And but they're still 30 minutes. For older, it's typically 45 to 55 minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes it goes longer. I've had sessions that go 2 hours because they're
Just
so
right.
interested
Yeah.
and they want to talk about stuff. And then for parents, I try to only do about an hour at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll do different sessions.
I see. Do you come up with your own curriculum? Like, how do you create that?
Yes, mine I just created based off of the things that I experienced and what I wish I would have been told as a child or as a teen. And so that's a lot of how I've created this curriculum, kind of putting myself back in like, okay, how did I feel at that age? What would actually speak to me? And what speaks to a lot of them is, and I know this is a lot of people who do what I do, they say don't do this, but sharing personal experiences. I do that, obviously it needs to be in an appropriate way to where you're not making it about you, but it's saying like, hey, I can relate, or this is how I know this stuff, because that's a common question that I get from students is, why do you do this? They want to know why I'm there, and so I tell them it's from personal experiences. So that's how I've created it, and that's why with every class I also say, if you don't agree with something that I'm saying, challenge me, or challenge each other, because it's a different perspective for all of us. You know, we may have experienced the same things, but we experience it in a different way. And so, but that's how I've created it. It's constantly changing.
Yeah, evolving.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
Cool.
I'm really intrigued now.
Yeah, I have like two directions I want to go from here. One, I want to know more just about the crisis center and how we would reach out to them and stuff like that. And then, like, let's just start with that. I'll get to my whole unveilment and everything later. But so keep the mystery alive. But
So the crisis center, right now we are expanding, and so it's a little bit chaotic. Originally we had 40 beds. And now we've expanded like all of the front offices, so it was the front offices, shelter and back, and so now all of the front offices have moved across the street. So admin is over there, and those front offices have become 40 more beds, so now we have 80 beds for shelter. The front front population is for, I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly because we're still figuring out like what we're labeling everything as.
Remember, it's long form narrative, so you can just explain it through. You don't have to get it super succinct.
Okay.
So
The front pop is for homeless. Crisis. Oh my gosh, hold on. I wrote it down on my phone, but it's more for like the homeless population who are in crisis. 20 beds are going to be for women and children who are just homeless. They don't have a previous victimization. And then the other 20 beds are for women and children who do have previous victimization, but you know, they're homeless and they need help kind of like getting up on their feet and all of that. So that's the front pop. The back pop is for our domestic violence and sexual assault emergency shelter. That one's going to be a little bit more long term. And with them that's more of like, if we build transitioning in the back, that's where they would go. You know, they've kind of already got an establishment like here, and so that's what the back population is for. Like, they've already got stuff going, but a lot of them, whenever they leave their abuser, they leave everything. They leave their clothing, they leave their documents, they leave their car, and so they come to us with nothing. And so it's that whole process of having to get that stuff for them. And so that's a lot of what the back population is for. But so that's our shelter part. Our counseling, we have 2 play therapists. And then we have 1 counselor who does adults. So the play therapists, they also work with adults, but we do have those 2 therapists for our youth. And then we have case management. So we have case managers in the shelter, but they offer case management for non-res as well. So people who just like need help with trying to figure out, you know, how to get out of a situation or how to get a protective order, things like that. We offer that to them, and that's where the legal advocate comes in too. And all of our services are free. And another program that we have that I didn't talk about is our SANE program, our sexual assault program. So all of it, well, not all of us, but a lot of us will take weekends or days where we're on call. Like this weekend, I'll be on call all weekend, and that's where if there's a sexual assault that gets called in, like either they'll show up to the hospital or they'll call law enforcement or they'll call us directly. We show up for that. And so Resolute has been super amazing. They donated a whole room, well, 2 rooms, but one room where they can do the exam, the sexual assault exam, and then another room where, you know, family or whoever is with the individual can sit, and there's movies, and we've got backpacks and clothes and all of that stuff for kids. So that's our sexual assault program, where we're there to offer the sexual assault exam, and yeah.
And this is just my thinking, like when you come to the crisis center, like someone comes there they're a victim of domestic violence, they come there to escape that situation, it's highly secure, like they're just in there, because I think that's where some people feel afraid, they think this person's gonna follow them in there.
Oh yeah.
But I would assume someone tries here and there, but
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
and you guys have that all kind of dialed in with the police and everything, I presume, like,
yeah. Absolutely. So we don't allow anyone in after dark unless a police officer accompanies them.
I see.
We have gates, lots of gates, and that's, you know, like where our clients can park, and so no one can see who is there, what cars are there. If someone feels like they're being followed, then we'll take them places in our car, or we'll make sure that, you know, we keep an eye out for if we see that person around town, or sometimes we get abusers who will get other people to call for them to ask questions about clients, and we can neither confirm or deny. And sometimes that happens with CPS and with law enforcement too. We can't confirm or deny unless we have a release form from that client. And so, yes, we do. We are very, very secure.
I like that. I just kind of wanted to make that clear, because I could see someone making that debate in their mind, or like, oh, but if I just go there, someone's just gonna come, you know, he's just gonna come there or something, you know, like, and it's like.
Sometimes they do, and they'll sit in our parking lot, and you know, but still, we don't let them in. There's no, none of that. And we have cameras, so we can know ahead of time.
I see.
And we have 24/7 staff, and so even night shift, we have someone there all the time.
Awesome.
So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you have like hotline? Like, is it well known? Like people who are victims like know to contact you right away?
They can call our number anytime, since we have someone there 24/7. So if they're in crisis, they can call us, and
What is the biggest challenge? Like, it sounds like what I'm hearing is like you will need a lot of staff to do a lot of things, you know, or even one individual case or one individual victim. So do you have like staffing issues? Like what kind of challenges do you have?
Staffing, not so much. I mean, honestly, we've been really lucky, because whenever you get into social work, there's usually a high turnover rate, because it's not enough pay for all the work that you're doing. But we have been fortunate enough, we have people who are very passionate about what they do, and so it is a challenge getting everyone on the same page sometimes. Like currently with the children's program, which I run in the summer, case management for them, and trying to figure that out, like how can we be more involved, how can we do assessments, and you know, see like if they're developmentally delayed, or if they need a specific kind of therapy, and kind of working with them in that sense and being more hands-on. That's been a little bit of a challenge, because if we have a lot of clients, then it's hard to be there for each, you know. And so that's one thing that we're working on right now, because it is a bit of a challenge. And then another challenge that we have, I would say, like for a client specifically, is transportation. If they come in without a car, New Braunfels doesn't have public transportation. And so if we don't have like the van or the car available that day, then, you know, and if they're looking for jobs, then we have to make sure it's within a certain time frame, so that they have a ride back. And then if they have kids, you know, that's another challenge, is if they have kids. During the summer, we have the children's program that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 9 to 2, and so that's where parents can really get all of their goals met, and run to the grocery store, do whatever they need to do, go to counseling, whatever they need to do. But whenever they have a full-time job, especially right now, like if their child is not of preschool age, and can't go to a daycare, then, you know, having someone that can watch those children the whole time. And so there's a lot of challenges that we have to
Sounds
overcome.
like it, yeah.
With anything new.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, communication with other agencies, that's something that I'm super passionate about right now is I feel like there's been a little bit of a divide, and so bringing us all together and working together, because we can all offer something to the clients, and so getting us all on the same page so that things are smoother, and also so that whenever our clients leave, there's a long-term plan for them. We don't want them to just have a short-term plan when they're with us and then they leave and it's like figure it out on your own. So yeah, but I would say those are our main challenges. Yeah.
Once they get out of your protection or the program, do you have like a follow-up kind of program?
Absolutely. Yeah. So they still receive counseling services. They can still, you know, call in if they need help with like funding of any sort or legal of any sort. We're still there for them. Absolutely. But we have a lot who call in who like actually move out of state who call in and update us on how they're doing. And yeah, that's really awesome. But yeah, we like to keep in contact with them, definitely.
You guys are doing something amazing there.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
How do I, like, can you just run by like the phone number and like the basic contact, like, you know, just, and I usually like to kind of keep this near the end of the episode, that way it's like right away, like people don't have to like run back through and try to find it and stuff. But,
Right. So phone number 830-620-7520.
Awesome.
That line they can call and someone is there 24/7 to answer the
Okay.
phone. And then our website they can go to, it's crisiscenternb.org. We also have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, we have the YouTube channel now, and so those are all ways that they can reach out to us, you know, send us private messages or leave comments or anything like that, but definitely calling that 830-620-7520.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, Ellie. We really appreciate it. It's a lot of information. We'll be in touch for more stuff.
And I'm excited about something we can do together. At
I agree.
gym, 'cause
I
we have
agree.
A lot of kids from 4
Yeah.
to 12 and
A lot of kids and a lot of the parents. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys.
And now the moment of truth where I go and check and make sure nothing turned off. Okay, great.